Good afternoon and welcome to this council meeting for the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is April 22nd, 2026. It is 5 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. Clerk Randy, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, I would remind council of any declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. The draft minutes from April 8th meeting were in the agenda package. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, the minutes will be adopted as presented to council in their agenda package. Clerk Randy, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Thank you. Okay, we have a public meeting and it's in the planning department. It's Elgin Incentives Community Improvement Plan. And if you would get us into there.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Droulard, that the public meeting to consider the 2026 Elgin Incentives Community Improvement Plan opens at 5:01 p.m. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay. Welcome, Carolyn, to Dutton Dunwich. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Through you to council, good evening. And I'm here tonight to talk about the 2026 update to the Elgin Incentives Community Improvement Plan, or CIP. And the presentation before you will walk you through what the program is, why it's being updated, what's new, and how you can share your feedback. So as we get the presentation up on the screen, I'll just go through the legislative notes. So this meeting is being held in accordance with the requirements of Section 17 and 28 of the Planning Act. Notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the prescribed process defined in the Planning Act. Anyone can make an oral and/or written submission to the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich regarding the plan. If a person does not make oral and/or written submissions to the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich respecting the CIP before a decision is made to approve this plan, their eligibility to appeal and/or be added as a party to a hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal may be affected. I'm just going to try using this pointer. I don't think so. Is there a specific place I should be pointing this to?
It should be this computer, but I tried it from there and it worked. But I can do your slides for you if you want to say next slide.
Perfect. All right. We may need to advance a couple of slides. So I've done the legislative and we're on to about the project. So if we go to the next slide, we will see more information about what a community improvement plan is. So a community improvement plan, or CIP, is a tool that municipalities can use under the Planning Act. It lets us identify areas that need improvement, create a long-term strategy to support those areas, and to offer financial incentives like grants or tax support to encourage private investment and community improvement. So this is one of the only tools that municipalities have to support private business and to encourage those improvement projects in the community by private business. Next slide, please. So I'll talk about Elgin Incentives and what it is. So it's our community improvement plan, and it's been around since 2015, and it is an award-winning program. It is the first of its kind, the first time an upper-tier municipality developed a county-wide framework that was adopted by its local municipal partners. So it currently includes 12 financial incentive programs that support things like building improvements, facade upgrades, and signage on private property. So while the county operates, prepares, manages, and largely funds the program, each local municipality must formally adopt the plan for it to apply locally. Next slide, please. So we are now more than 10 years into Elgin Incentives, and it gives us a great opportunity to step back and look at how the program is performing. So county-wide, we have supported a total of 287 projects, providing $1.56 million in grant funding, which has supported a total of $9.44 million of private investment. And 27 of those projects have happened in Dutton Dunwich. Next slide, please. So again, after a decade, we are reviewing what's working well, what's not, and what needs to change. So we learned that some incentives no longer align with today's costs, policies, or priorities. We'll hear a little bit more about that later. And there's also growing interest in housing and larger economic development projects. So the update has happened in two phases. In the first phase, we focused on background research and review. And the second phase, which we are working on right now, is actually updating the plan. Next slide, please. So we'll take a look at some of that background work that happened in the first phase. So if we go to the next slide, you will see the background review findings. So the background review highlighted several key points. So grant amounts didn't keep up with the rising construction and labor costs. So what a project costs in 2015 or did cost in 2015 is not what a project costs today in 2026. And there was also interest in housing incentives, which were not included in the original plan. And we also heard that the plan could be clearer and more user friendly. And there was a need to better support both existing local businesses and to encourage larger economic development projects. So overall, the plan needed a refresh to feel more modern and accessible. On the next slide, you will see the recommendations brief. So the recommendations brief took the findings from the review and then created a set of recommendations. So these included reorganizing the incentives, adding those housing-focused programs, increasing maximum grant amounts, and introducing new tools that municipalities could use to lead community improvement initiatives. And again, there was a strong focus on simplifying the program so it's easier to understand and also to administer. So now we're going to move on to a summary of the updated plan. And on the next slide, we will see the vision statement. So there has been no change to the overall vision of ELG incentives. The plan will continue to focus on county-wide economic development, supporting improvements to buildings and communities, and helping to diversify the local economy for the next 10 years. So our goals on the next slide have been updated to better reflect the current priorities, and they include creating more affordable and attainable housing options, revitalizing sense of place in our core areas and main streets, diversifying agritourism and rural economic development, improving building efficiency and sustainability of development, and also stimulating economic growth and vitality. So now on to the financial incentives. So to simplify things, the 12 original incentives were consolidated into 6 main programs organized by theme, and we also added 2 brand new housing programs. Funding limits now vary by program, but overall support can't exceed 50% of the eligible project costs. As before, incentives are administered and funded by the county, and local municipalities can choose whether or not they wish to participate financially. So we'll go over each of those programs in the next few slides. So the first program that we see is the Facade, Signage, and Property Improvement Program. And this program will support visible building upgrades covering up to half the cost of construction, professional, and application fees. And you will see that the maximum amount for materials and labor is $18,500. And then there's also a professional fees and an application fees amount. A project could apply for all 3 of those things. So under that program, the maximum amount would be the $18,500 plus the $4,500 plus the $4,500 if they were applying for all 3 of those things for their project. The next program is the Brownfields program, and this supports the cleanup and redevelopment of contaminated sites, and it includes study grants, temporary tax cancellation, and longer-term tax increment grants to encourage redevelopment. So on to our next program. It is the Building Improvement, Conversion, and Expansion Program, and this supports larger renovation or redevelopment projects. And the materials and labors cost, again, that's $50,000 up to a maximum of $30,000. And there is also the opportunity for larger projects to participate in a tax increment grant for redevelopment. The Building Efficiency and Sustainability Program focuses on projects related to energy efficiency and sustainable upgrades, helping to reduce environmental impacts. And now on to our next program. It is the Industrial and Agritourism Program. Oh, sorry, I'm missing one. It is the industrial program. I believe that's the first one, industrial stimulus program. So this program is designed to encourage industrial growth using tax increment grants with additional support for very large developments. So I'll take an opportunity to talk a little bit more about what a tax increment grant is. I don't believe Dutton Dunwich has had any of these tax grants, but essentially the purpose of these grants is to rebate an increase of taxation after a major project. So for example, if you have a vacant lot, you have a certain amount of property tax on that lot. If you build a 45,000 square foot facility on that lot, your property taxes are going to increase. So if successful, this grant would rebate that increase over a period of 5 years. So for the first year, they would be eligible to receive 100% of that increase back. For the second year, it would be 90% and it would decrease by 10% for the 5 years. We're also introducing a 10-year tax grant, and this is for larger industrial developments that are 60,000 square feet or more. So it would be a 10-year tax grant and it would continue to decrease by 10% per year, so that in year 10, it's 10%, in year 11, it's 0. So again, that's just for those larger industrial projects. And now on to the agritourism program. And so this one supports improvements related to farm-based businesses and rural economic activity. And again, you can combine those different categories for a total of $15,000 in this grant. So the next slide covers the new housing programs. The Affordable Rental Housing Program supports the creation of new affordable rental units, including planning costs and an annual tax-based incentive. So the tax-based incentive is directly tied to the rent. So the rent needs to be offered below market rent, and the lower the rent, the higher the incentive. And there is a reporting requirement here. So if they are successful in a grant, they need to report what their rent is every year. If it does go at market rate or above, they are no longer eligible for that tax rebate. And then the additional dwelling unit program helps homeowners add secondary units like basement apartments or garden suites, and it covers things like materials and labors and professional and application fees. So that is, those are the incentive programs, and now we're on to the municipal leadership initiatives. And these are new non-financial tools that the municipalities and the county can use to support community improvement. So they're optional, flexible, and dependent on council priorities and available resources. So these initiatives are designed to be used alongside the incentives to strengthen the overall results from private investment in the community. So the first one of these initiatives on the next slide is a streetscaping and public space strategy. So this initiative would focus on improving public spaces, things like sidewalks, crossings, lighting, trees, public art, and accessibility. The goal would be to develop a strategy to make communities more attractive, walkable, and welcoming. The next initiative on the following slide is public land inventory and opportunity analysis. So this initiative involves creating an inventory of public lands county-wide and assessing their potential for things like housing, employment, or green space. So this would help inform partnerships, funding opportunities, and also long-term planning decisions. The next initiative is a brownfield inventory, and this would build on the brownfield incentive by mapping and tracking contaminated sites across the county. So having the inventory would make it easier to target our incentives and coordinate redevelopment efforts. And the next initiative is a ready-to-build ADU catalog, and this also complements the ADU incentive program. So this initiative would create a set of pre-approved or pre-reviewed ADU designs. So the idea is to make it faster and easier for homeowners to create additional housing while ensuring that the designs meet the local regulations. And the final initiative is climate change adaptation and resiliency. So this initiative focuses on making communities more resilient to climate impacts, and examples include things like green infrastructure, building retrofits, expanding the tree canopy, and using climate resilient design in municipal projects. So now we go on to what happens after tonight. What are the next steps? So following this public meeting, all of the feedback that has been received throughout the process will be reviewed and used to refine the plan. And this report is going to County Council or the Committee of the Whole on April 28th for County Council endorsement. Following County Council endorsement, it will come back to the local municipalities where they will adopt it by bylaw. And if there are no appeals within the required time period, the updated CIP will take effect, and we will make an announcement when the CIP is open for applications. So now the next slide talks about providing feedback. So if you do have any feedback, you can visit our engagement page to learn more, or contact me at the contact information that is on the presentation screen. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn, for that presentation. A lot of work went into that. I'll open up to council for any questions or comments. Councillor Dryfield.
Through you, Mayor Hens. Thank you, Carolyn, for the report. And I know how much work has been put into this, and how much county input from stakeholders has been established through all the research that you've done. So I think it's fair to say and to mention to council that this whole incentive program is not just a county initiative where they've built it and established the process themselves. It came from grassroots. And these are, and I was involved in some of those meetings and some of the webinars and consultations through the whole process. We had, there were builders, there were business owners, there were all kinds of people, plus the fact that they spent a whole year. They visited at least 10 businesses throughout Elgin County. It was well over 160 or 170 businesses, and actually interviewed them privately. And all this feedback came back to the economic development group of the county. So there's been a lot of work put into it. And also I know that they consulted other counties around the surrounding areas to look at their incentive programs to make sure that we're in line. So I commend you on the work that was done. And our CIP plan in Dutton Dunwich, in our CIP area, we haven't expended any money yet. And our struggle has been, how do we administer it? It's a challenge, because we have to make sure that we align with the sort of the goals of the county. So I've held our committee, our EDC committee, back on expending any funds at all. It's just we wanted to make sure that we are aligned with the Elgin incentive program, and that way we could combine resources and we would have a better avenue to fit the whole purpose of what incentive programs do, right? So I think for our administration in general, the problem I see sometimes is that our administration or our staff is not aware of everything that's available to our ratepayers. And I'm hoping that through this, we, in our Economic Development Committee, we can foster that better relationship rather than just making it an ad hoc approach. So I think we're headed in that direction with our Economic Development Committee, and we are going to, starting in May, engage staff in our meetings, and we need to be aware of every detail of this, not just a committee chair or a councilman or a councilwoman. It doesn't really matter. The point is that our staff has to be aware that these incentives are available, and that we need to work together to foster economic development in general. So I think it's well done, and the amount of work that was put into it. So I guess that would be my comments, just general comments. but the challenge is administering it. So I'm hoping we can find a solution for that within our own internal resources.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Pemberton.
Thanks, Mayor Henry. I guess I just have one question. I understand from the program before, I don't remember the tax increments. And you had a maximum amount each year, and like once you received enough applicants and the money was gone, that was it. Is there a maximum amount on the tax increments? Or is that just anybody that applies would typically be approved for those if they meet the criteria of the program?
If I may, through you, Mayor Hens, to Councillor Pemberton. Perfect. Thank you. So yes, so we do have a budget each year for the incentive programs. The tax grants are outside of that because they operate as a rebate. And so there is an application process for the tax grants, and they go to the implementation committee for review and scoring, and then the implementation committee makes a recommendation to the council, and council ultimately decides whether to approve or deny the application. And so it goes to the local council and also to county council. So the local council can decide whether or not to rebate the local portion of the taxes, and county council decides whether or not to rebate the county portion of the taxes. Now, there are a set of application criteria. And then in addition to the application criteria, we also have our vision and our goals. And so the application is scored on how well does it promote those goals and accomplish that in the community. So just because an application is eligible may not mean that it scores highly, because we want to see those projects that make a big impact on the community. And so there are a few different considerations as council makes the decision whether or not to support a tax grant.
Pemberton.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I guess just for clarification, I didn't hear the answer. Is there a maximum amount at the end of the year that the tax can be, where it's as long as they qualify, they could? Okay, no, thank you.
Anything further? I have a question that's more for Councillor Dryfout. Dutton Dunwich CIP area is quite limited. I think it's Main Street at this point in time. Do you see this encompassing or including the entire municipality?
You're right. Our current CIP has a designated area from the doctor's office to Miller Road. So that's encompasses that Center Street and McIntyre Street. So that's our focus point of our existing CIP. So this CIP is full municipality, I believe, right? So we're in the full municipality, so we can utilize the Elgin incentive, but also we can link ours to their CIP. So it's like they're going to get they could get double the help, right? Depending on what our budget is for the CIP. So I do see there being possibilities of achieving that, but I've heard also that there's limitations. So we would have to have staff look into what the limitations are, which I don't know the regulations. So.
Okay, thank you. It is a public meeting. Is there any other comments? I suspect everybody's here for drainage meetings, but it's a bonus. You got a CIP information. Anything further from council? Okay.
Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Dryfout, that the public meeting to consider the 2026 Elgin Incentives Community Improvement Plan closes at 5:23 p.m. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, Carolyn, for making the long journey to Dutton Dunwich. Okay, on to drainage. John and Brent, if you would come up
I'm just
and
yep.
go ahead.
Moved by Dryfout, seconded by Loveland, that the meeting to consider the engineer's report for the McCaffrey drain opens at 5:24 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you, Randy. This is the meeting to consider the report for the McCaffrey drain dated November 10th, 2025 that was submitted to council by engineer John M. Spreet of Spreet Associates. The purpose of this meeting is to allow the landowners and other affected parties to be given the opportunity to voice their concerns relating to any aspect of the report. I would ask that any affected parties present please make us aware of your attendance now for the record. Do we have a sign-in sheet? Okay. Matters dealing specifically with assessments, including where land or road has been assessed too high or too low, any land or road that should have been assessed but has not been, or the land use was not duly considered, will be dealt with by the Court of Revision at a date to be determined after the passing of the provisional bylaw. Was everyone notified of this meeting to consider the report of the engineer in an appropriate way that were required to be notified under the Drainage Act?
Yes, April 9th, 2026, all landowners and affected parties required to be notified under Section 41 of the Drainage Act were mailed or emailed notice of the date, time, and location of this meeting. Included was a copy of the report of the engineer for the McCaffrey drain dated November 10th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. I would ask that the engineer, John M. Spreet, present his report. Floor is yours, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight's meeting is the consideration of the McCaffrey drain. So it's an existing municipal drain. It's an open drain that needs cleanout. There's lots of problems with it. It just, the water's not getting away fast enough. Further at the bottom ends, north of Chalmers Line, the existing drain stops something like 700-800 feet north of it. But there were concerns about flooding further upstream. So we are proposing to extend the drain to the half lot line of lot 8. So we took some time to do because we had to go to the DFO. Originally, the DFO wasn't in favor of any of it, sort of said no. And then we came back to them a couple of years later and they said, okay, well, the maximum you can go is to the half lot line. They don't want us going any further because they feel that's, natural habitat and not conducive to a municipal drain. So what we're proposing to do is do some reconstruction of the channel to alleviate flooding downstream and essentially a clean out of the drain along its entire length all the way up to Curry Road. The drain does continue further east on Curry Road, under the Curry Road. And there was a petition signed by Mr. Brubacher to get an improved outlet there. But that will be dealt with under another petition because the culvert under Curry Road is now under the MTO jurisdiction. So we're dealing with the MTO. We have an on-site meeting, I think, May 5th to deal with that. So essentially we're doing an extension at the bottom end and a clean out of the rest of the drain all the way along its length to improve the conveyance water. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for that report, John. Does council have any questions? Nothing? Just a comment. I'm surprised the DFO gave anything at all. So
That's it. Sometimes it depends who you deal with. Some analysts are more, I don't know the word lenient or not, but they're more understanding. So you have to try to work your way through the system.
something new every day. Okay. Do any landowners or affected parties have any questions or concerns?
So
Go ahead.
you're saying that anybody that pays into this did get his report?
I'm having trouble. Come on right up if you would, Herman, please.
So did any landowner that pays into this, did they get a copy of this that was just mentioned? It doesn't matter how big or small the assessment is?
I'll let John or Brent answer that.
Yes, they would have gotten a copy of the
No,
report.
I didn't.
Really?
Because Anthony Brown, that house that's sitting on Largy Road, he's assessed into it for about 40 or 50 bucks, probably, no report.
Well, actually, I didn't get one either, so at my place.
And not that it matters a
Not
whole
that
hell of a
it
lot,
matters,
but like
right.
the statement was just made that any landowner got the copy. And if I look at what the engineer's expenses are on this, then I think everybody should have had a copy.
Well, Randy can speak to this. Last week on, 2 weeks ago on Thursday.
Yep, Thursday, and yeah, everything should have been sent out. The reports were sent out. And the form notifying everyone was sent out.
But anyway, when I read that, she's only assessed $40 or $50, but then don't make those statements.
So the only
Well-
thing we do is Herman Minima is on there, or
Yeah.
Minima Farms is on there a number of times.
Yeah.
So we didn't send
No,
you
no,
a
no,
copy
no.
for every
I
property.
don't expect.
Yeah.
But like when the statement is made that any landowner that's assessed into it, it doesn't matter if it's $10 or $5.
Well, I think we're accurate in saying they were sent one. Every
Yeah.
landowner was, whether,
it's
and
supposed-
there's another issue coming up as well, didn't receive it. But we're confident they were sent one from here, so,
It didn't get in the mailbox.
well, okay. That's noted.
Was
Any other
right up
comments from,
Don't matter, it was only a couple of bucks, but we just. The point that.
any other comments on the McCaffrey drain?
So now, this year, what is it, another 3 months or so? Right.
Through the chair, no, 30 days,
Just 30 days.
30 days.
Then
He'll go for tender.
Yeah, so in about 30 days, we'll have a quarter revision.
I'd like to know as far as my property, where is it and
Through the chair, Mr. Scholdice, it ends at the limit between you and Mr. Waterworth.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's going right through,
Yeah, right through all the way to the northerly limits of your property line.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going through the bush,
Yeah, it follows the course of the drain, and we're gonna take some of the soil and build it up to try, because the water's coming out, right? And
Yeah.
always coming out, so we're trying to improve that channel.
so in that lowland, you're gonna open it up.
Well, we're gonna take some out of the bottom, we're gonna clean it, and then we're gonna take some of the spoil. They're not gonna let me make it straight from one end to the other. I can't get that approval. But yeah, we definitely want to open it up and give it more capacity because
Yeah.
when I met you on site, the water is always, flooding over the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a ditch going through the bush, it's never on that drain. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Is that part of the drain?
What's right on?
Where are you looking at, babies?
Yeah, like this side of the bush is opening up, there's been a ditch cut through there and through the bush, right back to the next property.
Is that parallel to your back lot line?
Yeah,
So I can speak to that. That's the C McCollum drain. We went through a report process all the way through and awarded a tender on that. And it was the landowner to the north of you that won that tender. And he hasn't come to construct that drain. I've called him a number of times and he assured me that he would get there. I haven't talked to him for a little over a year now, but we're to the point now that if we tender that again, it'll be over the engineer's estimate.
are you gonna re-tender it?
We can, but it probably will get to 30%, 130% of the engineer's estimate now because of the time that has passed. So then that's another meeting with council as to whether you want to proceed. But Mr. Waterworth is, even though it was a priority at the time, the priority seemed to disappear once he got the contract to construct it.
Anything further? Okay, anybody, please sign the sign-in sheet
So I guess
for that.
to my question, gonna get it tendered, not for 30 days,
Yes.
and then for construction this winter or
That depends on the availability of contractors. When they're available and when they can come. Keeping in mind that we cannot work in water from July 15th or March 15th to July 15th. So that period of time is out of the equation. But the rest of the year is available.
But I should say that a lot of the contractors are looking for work right now. We had the government #1 drain and thought that would happen later in the year, and he went and did a bunch of work before the timing window.
And it's a lot more contractors available for this type of work because it is open ditch. It's not, we don't have any tile to install, which is really narrows things down. Because not very many have the specialized equipment to install tile.
Anything further? You're good? Okay. Randy, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich shall adopt provisional bylaw 2026-2022, or sorry, 2026-22 at this meeting, and that the meeting to consider the engineer's report for the McCaffrey drain closes at 5:35 PM. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. The clerk will be mailing a copy of bylaw 2026-22 provisionally passed tonight to all landowners and affected parties as required by section 46 of the Drainage Act. The court of the revision for the McCaffrey drain will be held on May 27, 2026 at 5 PM. An owner of land assessed for the drainage works may appeal to the court of revision on any of the following grounds. Any land or road that has been assessed an amount that is too high or too low. Any land or road that should have been assessed and has not been assessed. Due consideration has not been given to the use being made of the land. By written notice setting out the grounds of the appeal at least 10 days before the first sitting of the Court of Revision to the Chief Administrative Officer clerk of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich. And further, under Section 48 of the Drainage Act, any owner of land or any public utility affected by a drainage works may appeal to the tribunal on other aspects of this drainage works, and in every case, a notice of appeal shall be served within 40 days of the mailing of the provisional bylaw with the clerk of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich. A fact sheet titled Drainage Act Appeals, the forms required to file an appeal with regards to this drain are available on the OMAFRA website and upon request at the municipal office. If you have any questions regarding this drain or any other municipal drain in the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, please contact our Drainage Superintendent, Brent Clutterbuck, at the municipal office. Okay. This meeting is adjourned. On to the next.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting to consider the engineer's report for the McKillop #2 drain and Zach McCollum branch drain opens at 5:37 PM. All in favor?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. This is the meeting to consider the report for the McKillop #2 drain and Zach McCollum branch drain dated March 23, 2026 that was submitted to council by the engineer John M. Spreet of Spreet Associates. The purpose of this meeting is to allow the landowners and other affected parties to be given the opportunity to voice their concerns relating to any aspect of this report. I would ask that any affected parties please make us aware of your attendance now for the record and the sign-in sheet, please. Matters dealing specifically with assessments, including where any land or road has been assessed too high or too low, any land or road that should have been assessed but has not been, or the land use was not duly considered, will be dealt with by the Court of Revision at a date to be determined after the passing of the provisional bylaw. Was everyone notified of this meeting to consider the report of the engineer in an appropriate way that were required to be notified under the Drainage Act?
Yes, on April 9th, 2026, all owners and affected parties required to be notified under Section 41 of the Drainage Act were mailed or emailed notice of the date, time, and location of this meeting. Included was a copy of the report of the engineer for the McKillop #2 drain and Zach McCollum branch drain. dated March 23rd, 2026.
Okay, thank you. And there are some concerns here, and Ian, I'll let you speak at this point quickly, briefly.
I never received a notice of the meeting until I got word tonight at 4:45. Didn't receive it.
Okay. Randy, you talk to Randy, we'll figure this one out, okay? Okay, at this time, I would ask our engineer, John M. Street, present his report. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is being done under section 4 and 78. It's an existing municipal drain. It started with a improvement for drainage by Argyle Hills Farms on the east side of Curry Road, Silver Clay Line. The existing drain, the Zach McCollum drain, in that area was constructed sometime in 1953 or 54. Just didn't have capacity. The water would come over the road and skip watersheds. There was just no capacity. So we had an on-site meeting and then we investigated. We found that it went into the McKillop drain number 2, which was downstream and heads west, the other side of Curry Road down Silver Clay Line. And that drain was installed in 1968. So it had a capacity of approximately 12 millimeters of rain in 24 hours. Nowadays, when we put tile drains in, it's 38 millimeters of rain in 24 hours. The standards have increased. So when we looked at improving this drain here, we felt that we couldn't tie a newer drain in a bigger standard into the other drains. So we have to go all the way down through the McKillop drain number 2. Further, at our preliminary meeting, Seven Star Farms, Mel Smith, requested that the drain be brought all the way up to his property line. So we have an extension. That's the section 4. So essentially what we're doing is reconstructing the drain as a closed drain all the way from its outlet west of Curry Road on Silver Clay Line, all the way up through, all the way to the top end of Smith 7 Star Farms. And where there's numerous road crossings on the drain too, because the area of Silver Clay lacked drainage. So talking to the road superintendent, Ryan McLeod, we met on site, we figured out what they needed. So we're proposing a fair number of catch basins and road crossings as part of this project. Hence, that's why there's a big cost to the municipality. Yes. So that's essentially my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, John, for that report. Any questions from council? Any concerns from the treasurer? Duly noted. Any landowners present? Ian, you might be the only one here on this one. Any concerns?
Yeah, we appreciate the municipality stepping forward to pay a large chunk of it. If it will ahead, it's badly needed. It's been needed for quite some time. It's the water from that drain can't get underground soon enough, and as a result, the road floods. Our property south of Silver Clay floods and creates some erosion problems there, so it badly needs to be repaired and replaced. But unfortunately, it does cost ourselves and the municipality a bit of money.
Through your worship, as it relates to the cost of the drains, that's something that the treasurer and I, we are looking at because it is a significant expenditure. And when it comes to cash flow, ensuring that we have funds available for certain budgeted items, this is also something that comes in as a surprise, that we have to ensure that we have the funds available to be prudent, to be fiscally responsible, that, you know, the funds that we do have are being used. So there will be a separate report coming back to council on how we're administering drains to ensure that what impact it has on our cash flow, i.e. even our lending rates when it comes to funding these type of projects, because there's a timing issue of when the money comes back in. So right now the municipality is incurring those costs. So we're bringing back a comprehensive report to council.
Thank you, Tony. Anything further from the landowners? John, just a question. We're going right to the outlet with a strain.
Yes, Your Worship. Yes. Yeah, the existing tile, the McKillop tile is it just doesn't have capacity. It was put in 1968. It doesn't have enough capacity. So the only way to properly do it, we discussed that. We don't want to hook in a larger tile into a smaller tile and cause problems all the way. So fortunately, that means, Mr. Prey, who owns a lot of land, has a fair amount of assessment all the way down through. And, we are going to the outlet.
I'm sure he received the report.
Hope we did.
Okay. Anything further? Okay, thank you. Randy, resolution provisionally adopt.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich shall adopt provisional bylaw 2026-23 at this meeting. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay. The clerk will be mailing a copy of bylaw 2026-23 provisionally passed tonight to all landowners and affected parties as required by section 46 of the Drainage Act. The Court of Revision for the McKillop No. 2 drain and Zach McCollum branch drain will be held on May 27th, 2026 at 5 p.m. An owner of land assessed for the drainage works may appeal to the Court of Revision on any of the following grounds. Any land or road that has been assessed an amount that is too high or too low. Any land or road that should have been assessed and has not been assessed. Due consideration has not been given to the use being made of the land. By written notice, setting out the grounds of the appeal at least 10 days before the first sitting of the Court of Revision to the Chief Administrative Officer, Clerk of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich. And further, under Section 48 of the Drainage Act, any owner of land or any public utility affected by a drainage works may appeal to the tribunal on other aspects of this drainage works, and in every case, a notice of appeal shall be served within 40 days of the mailing of the provisional bylaw with the clerk of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich. A fact sheet titled Drainage Act Appeals, the forms required to file an appeal with regards to this drain are available on the OMAFRA website and upon request at the municipal office. If you have any questions regarding this drain or any other municipal drain in the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, please contact our Drainage Superintendent, Brent Clutterbuck, at the municipal office. Randy, please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the meeting to consider the engineer's report for McKillop No. 2 drain and Zach McCollum branch drain closes at 5:47 p.m. and the regular meeting reconvenes. All in favor? That's carried.
Well, we're still in this drain, and just reach out to Randy and see where the glitch was in this, if you would. Okay, because we try our darndest to make sure everybody's aware of stuff.
Well, we got lost.
Okay, or I think we have an option, email Randy or whatever works for you. Okay, thank you. Okay. Thanks, John.
And then we gotta borrow. Like, yeah, that's what gets us the biggest problems. Yeah. So we're gonna lay it out and show you. And this is very common. Municipalities do this and they have the reserves. Yep.
We'll get through it.
Oh.
Okay, council, on to item 7, correspondence. Township of North Dumfries, Resolution 2026 Provincial Budget for Heritage Helping Housing Grant Funding. Any questions or comments from council? Councilor Dreyfus.
Yeah, I support this fully. I think it's something that they need to look at, and it does preserve, especially if they're done, the buildings are done right, and it adds value to the community. I think I'm fully supportive of this. So
it also maybe gets municipalities off the hook, because the only incentive we could offer is a tax break, which we're in no position to do. So I support it as well. Randy, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drewlard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives and supports the resolution from the Township of North Dumfries regarding the 2026 provincial budget for Heritage Helping Housing grants. Heritage Helping Housing grant funding, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the Township of North Dumfries. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. On to the consent agenda. We have Elgin County Spring 2026 Economic Development Tourism Update. Watson and Associates, ECA and Parkland Dedication changes. Anyone wish to comment on? I'll stop there. Councilor Pemberton.
Yeah, I guess I'm just concerned about the especially the DC updates. I understand the Parkland and Lou, but my concern with the DC updates is basically if we're following a provincial mandate of giving these rebates, we have to fund the rebate ourselves. So I'm a little concerned with being able to afford to do that. I know they're recommending this, but I don't think our DCs are as high as a lot of other municipalities. So I'm not sure we're going to be able to participate in this, but I just want to know that I'm concerned. If we try and offer it, we have to come up with the money from somewhere else. So I don't know that we can do it.
Fair point. Any other comments on that one? We really don't have to do a thing unless we apply for this funding that's a joint federal provincial funding. So if we never apply for that, then we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So I guess we look at programs as they come available and is it worth doing? Any comments further on that one? That's the way I read it anyway.
Through your worship, that's correct. It depends on our actions or if we decide to it, but there's always the possibility that things could change and it could require the municipality to fund this. And given the financial situation right now, that would be very difficult to ask for the municipality. So we'll keep council updated as we get more information on this. And there's currently a report that I am drafting on this, and just so we can stay on top of the current situations and also just to see what our neighboring municipalities are also doing as well.
Thank you for that. There was also included the Parkland dedication changes in there on that report. Okay. Move on to Watson Associates, and that has to do with water and wastewater changes, structural changes, governance changes. Any comments on that? Something that we're ahead of the curve, I think, at Tri-County. It's already been discussed numerous times. Item 4, Municipal Engineers Association, comments, concerns regarding the OPS harmonization. Let's see official plans. Nothing for council. And Elgin County Council highlights from April 14th. Nothing? Okay. Resolution, please, Randy.
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And we're on to the clerk's report. Randy, you have an election update. Anything further to add?
I would just like to point out that there seems to have been a bit of a misunderstanding in neighboring municipalities about what the lame duck bylaw means. So I would like to just mention that it covers 4 very specific things: the appointment or removal from office of any officer of the municipality, the hiring or dismissal of any employee of the municipality, the disposition of any real or personal property of the municipality with a value exceeding $50,000, And the fourth is making any expenditures or incurring other liability which exceeds $50,000 that is not accounted for in the current budget. So this might not take effect at all. It only takes effect if 3/4 of the members of the new council includes less than 3/4 of the members of the outgoing council. And we might know that after nomination day on August 21st, meaning the delegation of authority is 12 weeks until November 15th. Or it could be after voting day, October 26th, meaning authority would be delegated for approximately 3 weeks. I just wanted to clarify that.
Everyone's clear on that? Okay. We don't know whether we're lame duck yet. We could debate that, but let's not go there. Okay. Resolution, please, Randy.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the clerk titled Election Update dated April 22nd, 2026 for information, and that council adopt bylaw 2026-24 delegation of authority, lame duck, and bylaw 2026-25 voting period, and approve the 2026 voting procedures. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, Randy. And on to James. He has a treasurer's report, 2025 fourth quarter variance report. Everyone's had a chance to look at it, and any comments, James, you want to lead us through it or just answer questions?
Well, through the mayor, thank you. So the Q4 is obviously brought to you to have a snapshot review of where we stand going into the final year-end audit process, which will be happening soon. Overall, you can see that the operating budget is within the amount approved by council. I expect it to continue to be that way as the auditors complete their analysis of it. We've got some good highlights in there. Our salaries and wages are below budget by 8%. Many of the revenue sources are above budget. And our contracted services on a whole are also below our budgeted. The capital budget is also overall within the approved amount. Some projects did have some cost overruns, but we've also seen some savings in other projects, such as the roads purchasing the disc roadside mower and the Kubota zero turn mower. They both came in under budget. And also a completion of a capital project from 2023, which was the Silver Clay Line culvert replacement. It was well under budget, and that allows us to free up some of our gas tax funding to use for other programs in the upcoming years. So, like I say, I expect the municipality to project a surplus for 2025, which will help offset prior year's deficits. So we're bringing more reports back about the surplus to a future council meeting, along with as Tony mentioned, a report on our reserves. So,
okay. Thank you, James. Any question from council? I thought it was an excellent report, and after I read it, I felt pretty good. Yeah. Go ahead, Tony, you want to comment?
Yeah, through your worship, just want to make one point regarding salary and wages, 8% below. I want to thank staff. We did have some vacancies, and staff were able to step in, take on some additional responsibility. So, I just want to recognize their efforts and some of the things that they did, that we were able to hold the line when it came to certain budget items. As we start now filling various positions, now those expenses will now be more aligned with the budget amount. So I just want to thank staff for doing, going above and beyond some of the regular dues that they do as well. Thank you.
I would like to echo those comments. We were down to a pretty skeleton crew for most of 2025, and they took on extra duties. So I will personally thank them for all the work they did. Anything further from council on now's your time to put James in the hot seat? Okay. Resolution, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives for information the report of the treasurer titled 2025 Q4 Variance Report dated April 22nd, 2026. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, we have the CAO's report, service allocation policy, and we do have Matt Vaughn with us from the county. Is it just Matt or is Diana there as well? Oh, I see Diana. So we'll just hand it to them.
Good evening.
Yeah. Okay, whoever Matt or Diana's doing this report.
I'll be doing the report. Yes, thank you very much. Through the mayor to the rest of council. The report in front of you here is an explanation of the servicing allocation policy. Staff are looking for some direction on initiating our public engagement for this policy. And I'm just going to give you a little presentation on the policy and sort of where we've been and where we are, and then I can field some questions if it pleases the council. So on February 25th of 2026, the interim control bylaw was extended for up to a year to give the municipality time to finish repairs to the wastewater treatment system. Once those maintenance repairs to the system have been completed, it's anticipated that a limited amount of wastewater servicing will become available. It's expected that the upgrades to the system will improve the existing deficiency and potentially create somewhere between 130 to 160 equivalent residential units of wastewater capacity. And at the time of the implementation of the servicing allocation policy, projects which have reached registration for both subdivision and condominium, site plan approval, consent approval, any of our committee of adjustment permissions, and applications to lift part lot control, those will all be exempted from the policy. There is an estimated 45 approved registered residential units and 4 commercial units that have received pre-allocation and are awaiting servicing availability. Besides those pre-approved allocations, in order to ensure a fair and transparent process for wastewater servicing allocation, the relative merits of competing development applications will be weighed by using a selection criteria developed in the servicing allocation policy. The policy will set out a biannual allocation threshold of sewage treatment, as well as how servicing demands of development will be calculated. The policy will apply to things like building permits, subdivisions, condominiums, site plans, consent applications, our C of A applications, and again, the lifting of part lot control. Attached to the report, there's a draft. The draft policy proposes that allocation of wastewater services will be awarded biannually or as available using a development by class percentage. So right now, just keep in mind, these are all just draft. These are just simple ideas right now, because we do need to discuss them and go out to public and to the development community. But right now, what's being proposed is that existing infill or downtown development will receive 20% allocation. Residential subdivisions will receive 20% allocation. Institutional development would receive 10% allocation. Commercial development would receive 30% allocation. Industrial development would receive 10% allocation. And we would also hold back municipal strategic reserve 10% for that allocation. If council were to approve a future servicing allocation policy and bylaw, once the maintenance repairs are completed and the facility is operational, an example of how that policy might be implemented would work a bit like this. So a municipal engineer would submit a report to this council about 1 month ahead of that biannual year, outlining available wastewater servicing capacity. And if there's a surplus of wastewater servicing capacity, the allocation policy process is then initiated and applications are open for submission. An applicant would fill out and submit servicing allocation applications on or before the last day of each biannual calendar year. And then the planning department would review those applications and assign those applications to a specific development by type class. So just like we talked about before, If an application was for like residential, it would go in the residential category. If it was for institutional category. So if there are competing applications within a development class, the Development Review Committee, which is, we still have to figure out the details exactly of that, but the idea would be it'd be comprised of planning and municipalities, municipal staff, would convene and review applications against a servicing allocation point system. The development with the highest awarded points would be granted conditional servicing allocation, and that point system is explained in the policy itself. If there is a sole application within a development class, conditional servicing allocation is granted, of course, based on availability of services within the development class. So if, let's say, a school or something wanted to expand, and that meant that they would have a higher demand on wastewater services, they could expand, but only up to a certain point. And whatever's agreed to right now, the idea is 10%. Applicants would then sign a conditional servicing allocation agreement, and then council would be notified for information about who was allocated and who could proceed with those developments. And then projects are expected to be completed within a year. Otherwise, if they don't think they'll get that done in time, an extension could be applied for. But if they're not constructed or finalized in the right amount of time, or if they haven't asked for an extension, their allocation could be revoked. So the proposed servicing allocation policy and bylaw, it's intended to provide the municipality with a fair and transparent and defendable framework for managing the limited wastewater capacity that will become available following the completion of the current wastewater treatment system. And establishing a formal allocation process will help to ensure that remaining capacity is distributed in a manner that supports responsible growth and protects municipal infrastructure and aligns with this council's long-term planning objectives. Public consultation will provide an opportunity to receive feedback from the affected property owners, from our developers and residents before a final policy is presented to council for consideration. So, like I said at the beginning, what we're looking for today is some direction for staff to initiate public consultation on the proposed servicing allocation policy and bylaw. And then once that process is complete, staff would return back to council at a future date with a final proposed servicing allocation policy and bylaw. And we're here for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, for that report. And if council has any questions, Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity. I first of all, I want to make the comment that I support this. I'm glad to see that we went to doing this twice a year instead of once, like we had in the original report. I think that's a real positive step forward. I do have a couple minor concerns, though. I really think that this approval, that the committee should make the recommendation to council, and council should be the one who made the final approval. I think that protects staff a little better, but it also keeps us more involved. And I'm a bit concerned that we should have maybe a little bit more into the residential than we have now. I think the commercial may be a bit high, but again, I do support, at least we have a 10% reserve that we can reallocate if we need to. But I guess that's my concerns.
Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Hens. Through you. Yeah, thanks, Matt, for the report. Again, I agree with Deputy Mayor Loveland. I agree with this. I think it's something we need. And I don't know whether to discuss it here, or maybe we can go offline and sit down and have a meeting. I do have a couple of questions. Like for example, in section 2.1, it says the allocation policy is applicable to building permits. I guess I just don't quite understand that. If we've exempted site plan approval and existing lots of record and things like that, I'm concerned that that would hold up the building permit application process. If everything else is already exempt, it's just one more step in that process. So I'm not quite sure why that's in there. The other thing you said for the allocation policy is existing infill allocation would get 20% or something like that, whatever the number was. Don't quote me on that. Again, I guess my concern is I'm assuming that would only happen if it required a site plan agreement. Because that would be, that would be what the trigger would be for that requiring the allocation. Not quite sure how old our site plan agreement policy is, but I just would suggest that maybe we review that to make sure that it does include our downtown core if that's what we want. Because I know some older site plan agreement policies certainly exempted quite a bit of things. So I would just say maybe we want to review that.
Go ahead, Matt, your comments.
Thanks very much. I was looking for the button to press, but I can't find it. The site plan applications, the only ones that would be exempt would be the ones that are already approved right now. Any future applications that would have to go through the site plan process would have to receive allocation. So it's not that applications are being proposed to be exempt if they only have to go through site plan. Those are just the ones that are already site plan approved right now, similar to residential units that are registered in registered plans of subdivisions. Like right now, as part of what's being proposed, they would be exempt from the policy because they're already registered and they would have been previously allocated that service. Anything that is site plan approved and really just waiting for building permits at this point, they would also be exempt from that policy and bylaw. The reference to building permits is, let's say it's if it's a project that, you know, they're putting in an apartment in an existing dwelling or something like that, and it requires building permit work that would increase the capacity of the sewage capacity requirements. Something like that would need to be allocated. So that would have to come as part of a request, and that would be something we talk about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, and I get that. I guess the way it's written in here, it basically looks like every building permit. So I would say, and that's why I said we could maybe discuss it offline. We don't have to go over the semantics of it here. It just, the way it's written now, it says building permit, so every building permit would be subject to it. Instead, you know, we could possibly put building permits that increase sewage capacity by more than 20% of existing capacity or something would require something like that. Just the way it's written right now, it looks like every building permit issued would be subject to this. So I just think there might be some wording there that we could discuss sometime.
Understood. Yep, understood.
Councillor Dreyfus.
Thanks for this. Through you, Mayor, had some, I like the policy in general. I think it's a really good starting point or a point that we can definitely work with. I guess the only, and I'll just go back to what Deputy Mayor Loveland said. I'm glad that you've considered the biannual. I'm still wondering if it's still needs to be in a different category, shrunk down just a little bit, whether it be on a quarterly basis. And the only reason why I'm saying that is that infill lots, as an example, you're going to have someone come in and buy an infill lot, and they're going to want to get going within a reasonable amount of time on a 6-month or a biannual basis. You're starting to get into that element of time for them in most cases, and it may even affect or deter from purchasing the property. So if they're purchasing the property to build an infill lot, and they're not even assured that they're going to have allocation, that becomes a risk. It's a risk to them. So I'm just wondering if we could, commercial developments, I totally understand. You could probably even go a year on a commercial development, but I'm just wondering about an infill lot, if that's still not enough time, if that process could be sped up a little bit.
I'll let you respond to that, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. We could look through the mayor to the rest of council. We could look at shortening that time frame up. We would just have to be cognizant of, it would also mean we would need to double check the system's capacity. So whenever we go through this process, it's always good to have the engineer check the system's capacity. Maybe there's more, maybe there's less. So that would just something we would have to sort of tie to that process just to make sure that it's buttoned up.
Anything further from council? I just have a comment, and I think it's relevant in 2026 being an election year. Councils come and go. good policy outlasts the council. So, and I think we're heading down the road to good policy here. So bear that in mind. There could be quite a turnover. We don't know. But good policy will withstand that change. So anything further? Thank you, Matt and Diana, for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Thanks very much for having us. Have a nice evening.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives for information the report from the Chief Administrative Officer and the Director of Planning and Development titled Draft Servicing Allocation Policy and Bylaw dated April 22nd, 2026, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich direct planning staff to initiate public consultation on the proposed servicing allocation policy and bylaw, and that staff return to council at a future date with a final proposed servicing allocation policy and bylaw. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, thank you. Any unfinished business? Seeing none. Any new business? Nothing? Councilor Drulard. Okay. We'll go on to announcements.
I just wanted to mention that this weekend is on Saturday is our community-wide cleanup, and so there's lots of prizes and lots of fun to be had, lots of food, and we would invite anyone in the community to come on out. If you don't have a team, you can join another team. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything further? Clerk Randy, we're on to proposed bylaws. So I'll let you.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2026-22 being a bylaw to borrow on the credit of the corporation in the amount of $240,000 for the improvement of the McCaffrey drain be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted, and that the Court of Revision be held on May 27th, 2026 at approximately 5 p.m. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2026-23 being a bylaw to borrow on the credit of the corporation in the amount of $730,000 for the improvement of the McKillop number 2 drain and Zach McCollum branch drain be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted, and that the Court of Revision be held on May 27th, 2026 at approximately 5 p.m. All in favor? That's carried.
Are you okay there, Treasurer? You looked a little faint there for a minute, but you're good.
I'm not.
Sorry, I don't want to.
Just keep going.
Mr. Later.
Sorry, Randy, carry on. I just thought we needed medical attention here for a bit.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2026-24 being a bylaw to delegate authority in the event of a lame duck period during the 2026 election be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? That's carried. And a move by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that bylaw 2026-25 being a bylaw to provide for a voting period to be held prior to voting day be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Down to item 16, which is a closed session. We'll take a short break as Randy locks us on. Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council for the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 6:19 p.m. in accordance with section 2239-2 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001 C25, for discussion of the following matters: D, labor relations or employee negotiations, health services. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich hereby comes out of the closed session of the meeting at 6:56 PM and the regular meeting reconvenes. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, thank you. Item 17, confirm proceedings. Clerk Randy.
My computer's frozen. Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2026-26 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. The future meetings are before you. And we can wrap it up. Clerk Randy.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drouillard, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 6:57 PM. All in favor? That's carried.